Hello, everybody. It's midday on Friday, which means it's Wow Ergonomics.
Wow.
I love it. You've got used to it now, Twyla. Wow Ergonomics. Anyway, the wow juice has changed colour this week. It's more of a claret.
It's going with my whole purpley theme that I've got going on in here.
Wow, that's pretty strong stuff.
You're gonna need it today.
For anyone that is wondering, it's apple and blackcurrant.
Yeah, right.
There you go. People were like, "What? They're drinking at this time of the day?" Yes, we are. We have some special guests today that we're going to bring on. So the first of those is someone that you might have seen before, and it's this gentleman. Hello.
Yay! He's back.
Hello.
You got some wow juice as well.
I've got some wow juice as well. Hello, and welcome back to me. So sorry, been missing for a few weeks, but thank you for holding the fort, the boat, whatever it would be. So yeah, ready to go. Looking forward to it.
Ready to go. Stephen was actually on a mission. That's why he wasn't here the last few weeks. He was actually out farming the next lot of wow juice. So we sent him to the outer reaches of Mongolia to get
Not
that.
the deepest, darkest Peru version.
Was that what you were doing?
Marmalade. That's the deepest, darkest Peru's marmalade, isn't it? So.
Absolutely. And we're also joined today by the wonderful Nicola Lathbury. Hello, Nikki.
I'll move over.
Folks, thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Welcome.
What would you have normally been doing at midday on a Friday?
Probably sat here putting events onto Eventbrite, swearing at the screen a lot, and trying to do 6 million jobs at once. Joys of ADHD.
I love that. Okay, I love that. So that actually we've saved you this Friday. We've actually taken you away from that for a little bit of headspace. And thank you to the people out there beyond the fourth wall who are actually watching this right now. You make it. You're the people that we spend the time doing this for. So thank you if you're sitting there listening. There is a comment section because this is going out live. Unless you are watching this back on the Spotify or listening whilst you're driving down the M25, in which case you can't comment, but you can just join in instead.
And you're probably not driving if you're on the M25. You're probably sat at standstill. So.
I do call it the largest car park in Europe. Yes, absolutely. So, Nikki, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
So, I'm Nicola Lathbury. I am the founder of FM Connect, and we are a network that is aimed at the facilities management, property, and workplace sector. With the idea of being inclusive networking, so that it's bringing together those three sectors to cross-pollinate. But the idea behind it being inclusive networking is that I realised that out there were so many people that used to go to networking that were your extroverts, that were your salespeople, your national account managers, and in the sales function. And we were really missing the people that are maybe introverted, they might be neurodiverse, they might be in operations, they might think that they're not required at networking. And I realised that we were actually missing some of the greatest minds in our sector. So what we wanted to do is, because FM Connect is run by myself and a group of brand ambassadors that help bring it to life, and they are super important to the success of FM Connect. So thank you to them. But it's around making everybody feel welcome and everybody have a voice. So we structure our networking events really differently to what you would have seen in normal networking events to allow everybody their time to shine in them.
Oh, that's brilliant, isn't it? What were you feeling was being missed out in conversations before? What do you feel is now happening in conversations around those sectors which wasn't there in previous incantations of networking events that you saw?
I kind of feel that there was a lot of people that wouldn't have come. They just wouldn't go because they'd be frightened of networking, so they wouldn't go to start with. Two, when they got there, they would maybe get imposter syndrome or feel like a rabbit in the headlights, not know what to do, would try and blend into the background, would not know how to network, because obviously you don't know what you don't know. And if you're not in a sales type role or national account manager role, you maybe don't know how to network, you've never been shown how. And also, they can quickly get drowned out by the extroverts like myself. And so what we wanted to do is to give them a space where they had chance to shine and to speak. It was in a structured format, and also that we'd make it neurodivergent friendly. So if things get a little bit too much and a bit too peoply for you, we always make sure that there's a space where people can actually just go off, recharge, reset before deciding to come back in and join us. And our format is run, so we have a couple of speakers, but it's also run with structured networking, and that's where we break into groups of 8 to 10, and everyone gets a chance to introduce themselves and what they do. But then we'll also throw a question in, and it's something for them to debate. So everybody gets a chance to have an opinion, and it gets a chance for their personalities to come out, where they feel that they're able to have an opinion on a particular topic, rather than, lots of people are not comfortable about talking about themselves, but you ask them for an opinion on something to do with the workplace or the property sector, and they're happy to have an opinion, even if it's something that they don't directly manage. So it enables them to show their true, authentic self, and we make sure that it's a safe space for people. So even down to the fact, if someone's not networked before and they let us know, we'll arrange for a brand ambassador to meet them at the door or meet them beforehand if they're a bit worried about walking in, to make sure that we get these people in to have a voice so that we can make change within the industry.
I think it's so important. I'm going to throw this to Twyla and Stephen for a minute. Let's face it, and also I'm going to throw this to the audience as well. Let's face it, there's lots and lots and lots of networking events going on out there. Ever since COVID and coming back from COVID, face-to-face networking has really taken off again, hasn't it? And I think because people missed it during the lockdown periods and whatever, I think it's, people have really craved it coming back. And with that as well, there's been so many people that have said they have developed the new networking experience. And then you go along to a networking experience, and let's face it, half of them are exactly the same as the other networking experience out there. There's no difference whatsoever. And I don't think that a lot of people think about it properly in the first instance, like you were saying, Nikki, in terms of incorporating people that are perhaps introverted or to speak in the words of the great Guy Osmond, they may be green or blue as opposed to red or yellow. But also, yeah, as you say, that is it inclusive? Does it incorporate or work for everybody? And again, I deal with clients who not only are neurodivergent, but also I've got 2 clients who are visually impaired, and they tell you that most network events really don't work for them. Right down to the signs as you go in, which they can't see. So there's all of that. But do you think that people need to just start, if they're going to create something, they need to think about it a bit more differently and a bit more creatively as well, in terms of how to get those conversations going? Because a lot of events are sort of like semi-sales events, etc., and they work on this kind of sales footing, but they don't necessarily allow people to start having the conversations which really are the important conversations that might implement change. Any views?
I was just thinking back when you said networking, what was my first experience of networking? And it was a BNI breakfast networking event at Astonwood Golf Club. And it basically was 30 of you got together, you all had a fry up, and then everyone had 30 seconds to stand up and say what they'd what was their pitch? What did they do? And you look back and you think that wasn't really networking, was it? Because, if you were all restricted, you could only have one person from each sector. It was very, very strict as to what you could do. But you literally stood up for 30 seconds, said your bit, and then sat back down and thought it wasn't really sort of true networking. And that was sort of my first experience of it, really. I think it is really important. And you mentioned a great point there, Graham, that the sort of the crave for sort of human one-to-one contact sort of came from COVID and then has just rolled on from there. But, I have to say, I haven't been to as many networking events. Twyla does a lot of that for us, but I do see the different type of events is really quite interesting. And Twyla will probably touch on some of the things she's done, but whether it's, there's been sort of, and when I say pub crawl, you know what I mean, sort of there's been pub crawls, there's been quiz crawls, there's been Halloween events, there's been, lots of different things that have gone on. I think there's a lot of creativity around the themes. It isn't just bang, it's a networking event, there's a bit of food and you stand up. There's actually seems to be a lot of thought to try and get a theme within a theme to draw different people in, and I guess maybe draw people in who wouldn't normally put their hand up and go, yeah, that's for me.
Themes, yes, but Twyla, mechanisms in terms of how they're delivered, is that being creative enough? There was a post this morning which I commented on LinkedIn where two ladies in a car talking about car sharing and not liking networking and going to a network event, and I said, what a great idea, the idea of networking in a car share. And could we take that a little bit further and maybe have, because it's not really big enough, how about networking on a bus? And we could pick people up as we go along. I mean, I just think, do people actually think creatively enough about the whole mechanism of what it looks like, or actually does it look the same as everybody else's?
In some respects, the mechanism, I think, can be novel, and that can attract a certain amount of attention. But I think one of the issues with networking is that B&I sort of thing is that you're just diving straight into selling, And to me, if you're going to sell, you need to build trust, and you need to understand your client, and you need to have relationship, and you need to have authenticity. And, those things get bandied around quite a lot now. But I think if you're not showing who you actually are and making a connection at a different level so that people can understand you and rely on you, and let's be honest, in that sort of relationship, you have to spend time with this person, and you have a choice as to who you're spending time with. With your colleagues, like your family, you don't necessarily, unless you're the person hiring. So I think networking is as much about building an understanding of who a person is. And it might not be the person you're networking with that you actually want or need the relationship with. It might be someone they're introducing you to. And so I think the idea of a bus going around, I think that's a great idea. But I think because I've attended, unfortunately, I was unwell and I couldn't attend the recent FM Connect event in London. I was really disappointed in that because I had attended my first one back in August, and it was a bucketing it down rainy day, cold like today. I cannot tell you. And these people had to run around because they had a rooftop bar booked, and they had to find somewhere else to do it, like on the day. And I don't even know, I'm guessing maybe 100 people showed up on a rainy day in Birmingham when it's supposed to be a rooftop bar. I think that in itself is amazing. And it shows how much people are getting out of FM Connect. And I really actually, and I've been networking for like a zillion years, but even I walked into that room, I knew no one. And so you think, oh God, I got to find people to talk to. But I was scooped up immediately. The brand ambassadors made you feel really comfortable. They wanted to know who you were. They introduced you to people who also didn't know anyone. And so you had this, this bit of just getting to know people. And the groups worked so well. You really got to know people and what they were doing in their jobs, and realizing you had more in common with them in your job, even if they were completely different. It was a really excellent experience. So I think whether you're used to networking and you don't mind it, or you're too long in the tooth and jaded, like some of us who shall remain nameless, or if you're brand new or you've never done it, because no one teaches anyone anymore anything. They just throw you in and see if you kind of figure it out, which is not good. This is a place where I think anyone can go along and make a connection that's meaningful. And that's the important thing. It's meaningful so that you can do something with it.
Wow, Nikki, you couldn't have asked for better there.
Thank you. Well, that's why I'm so proud of what we're doing, because people that come along then become our salespeople, because it is so different to what everybody's doing. And we've created such a safe space for people to be themselves. That when we talked about, we did our one of our events at Just Eat for Business down in London at their HQ, and it was men's mental health awareness week. So that wasn't the theme of the event, but we used that as the question that we were using in the groups, and we were asking about how SMEs can actually be able to support their employees the same way as the large corporates are when they don't have that budget. What are the barriers to it? How can we help? And that started the conversation off. And two people within that group that are beautiful, larger than life characters that you wouldn't even expect, felt so safe in that environment that had been created that they felt they were able to share that they'd actually made an attempt on their life. And for me, it was a bittersweet moment, because it was really sad to hear that somebody had been struggling in that way, but felt totally blessed that we created such an environment that somebody felt comfortable to share that with other people in the hope that they could save somebody else. And it really opened up some good, strong conversations. And it's been so nice watching people that have maybe been tucked away throughout COVID and have lost some of that social connection, or they may live alone, etc. And this has become so much more than networking now. We're actually growing a community that actually works together, that they actually support each other on a friendship level as well. And it's actually really beautiful watching it blossom. And I'm so proud of what our brand ambassadors have helped us create, that may be the only connection that's a chosen connection that some people have if they live on their own and that they're isolated. You go to work, and like Twyla was saying, you give so much of yourself that there's probably a lot that you keep back. Even if you are in a really supportive employer. So it's really nice to see what's actually blossoming there, and those people then become our best ambassadors that go out there and tell everybody about it, because it's almost like a family, but it's a family where everybody gets welcomed in from the start. It's not one of those where you can go to networking events and it's really cliquey. You feel uncomfortable being in the room, you feel like you don't belong, that you're not part of the in crowd. With FM Connect, it's like you're scooped up from the minute you come in, and it's like you're brought into the embrace the community. And that is down to the fantastic ambassadors that we have. They've been handpicked by the fact that they want to make change for good in our industry. They're probably people that will be described as the thought leaders or even the disruptors, because they are prepared to chuck a grenade for the interest of things moving on and changing within the sector. So I'm super, super proud of them. And it's lovely to watch people that have come in shy and see them, their confidence growing. And even like we launched in Manchester last Tuesday, and there was somebody there that admitted, it was Working Parents Week we were talking about that week, and somebody admitted that he'd had a breakdown, and it was a result of PTSD from when he'd been in the forces. And it opened up such amazing conversations, because people know that you're supported there and people will look out for you. And I've never experienced anything like that. And I wanted to create it because I'm probably going to share something about that too. But I've done a lot of work on myself, self-development work. And one of the things that I really struggled with is ostracization right from a child. And the thing that I craved the most was belonging. So I felt that if I could turn that to a positive and create belonging for people, real true belonging that meant something, that actually we'd be able to create something really beautiful, that we could perhaps create a movement to really make change for good. And that's what we're seeing unfolding now. And we're finding that the right companies are coming with us to partner with us and saying, actually, use our venue, come and bring it to us. We want to work with you. Can we sponsor an event? How do we connect with this network? How do we become part of this community? So I'm really, really blessed and grateful for how it's going and what it's giving to people.
Wow. Strong stuff there. Really, really emotionally strong stuff. I think in the interest of balance, just wanted to say very quickly, you know, we mentioned sort of BNI and other networking brands do exist, etc. And actually, for a lot of people, those networking type events work.
Yeah, I'm an ex-BNIer.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people do BNI and then actually do other networks, and they're quite fond of that as well. You know, I think actually can perhaps recognise that within the networking world, that it's not necessarily about just choosing your side and just being part of one thing. It may well be that actually sometimes it's useful to go to an event of a certain kind or be part of a network of a certain kind for some kind of activity within our business. It might be sometimes to stand up and do the 30 seconds thing is actually really productive. For start, you know, as a business owner, if we can't talk about our business in 30 seconds, then actually we probably have budged it, you know, because sometimes, you know, we meet people out and about in situations and we need to be able to tell them pretty quickly what it is that we do. And if it's an elongated story, then, well, we don't have time for that. So I just wanted to bring that little bit of balance into that.
Yeah, I think it's right too. I think we would, you know, I was just referencing sort of first experiences, but you're right. For certain businesses and certain people, that type of traditional structure could be the one for them. I'm really interested to ask Nikki, what does bad networking look like?
I would think for me, and also for the people that come along that then share their experience, places where it feels cliquey, it can be an old boys club, that you feel like you're not welcome. But it's just people catching up with people that they know. They're not really mixing with people. So how do you actually, I keep going to say infiltrate, that's not the right word. How do you manage to gain new connections in an environment like that? Because I've been along to some of those and I'm probably one of the most confident and outgoing people that you'd meet. And I talk to randoms in the street. I really don't care. So if I feel that actually I feel a bit uncomfortable being here and I don't want to because it's almost like that it feels that they've built a wall around themselves, and it's like this is us. We're talking in our little group. There is no space for other people. So that for me, that's what bad network. But that might work for people that are meeting up with pals and stuff like that. You can't really define bad networking until you know what you're looking to get out of it, and everybody's looking for something different, aren't they? Like BNI didn't work for me. However, if you're an accountant, if you sell insurance, if you're a mortgage broker, it's great for those kind of businesses, but it just didn't really work for me.
You really struck a chord with me there, because about, you know, the clickiness of it. Because coming from the States when I first came here, you know, luckily I've got a pretty thick skin and I don't worry about it. But one of the things that really fascinated when I first came here was I would get even invited to parties and things like this. And you'd go around and you'd try to introduce yourself. If you were lucky, your host would try to introduce you. Very rare thing. And, you know, you go along and you try to, and it's like a stone skipping off the water. And then, so being a good guest, I'd stay for a couple hours. I'd try to make myself useful, try to meet people, reasonable amount of success, sort of, because I just don't take no for an answer. And then when I would go to leave, I'd go to say goodbye to people and they'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry we didn't have a chance to speak." I'm like, actually, yeah, you did. You didn't take it.
Yeah.
And I didn't say that, but, you know, And so I think there is a cultural thing that happens here as well. It happens everywhere, but I think it can be particularly strong sometimes in the UK.
Can I ask a question into that as well? This will make me incredibly unpopular, but here we go.
Brigade incoming.
More unpopular, you mean?
Yeah, maybe in certain circles, but do you know, I hear that a lot, especially from women. And how much of a problem actually is it? Because I think that there is still a massive problem there, that actually a lot of women feel invisible in the business world in certain situations because of the way that men treat them in social settings. In other words, they don't introduce them into their network. They don't introduce them into the room. They're there, and they, you know, it's almost like men think that, assume that like they're going to do their thing, etc. But it's almost like men, inhabit the space. They all know each other. They will do the, but what they won't do is they won't, as you say, they won't necessarily go, oh, this is what they do, and talk about them. They, men are very good at talking about themselves.
Women can be equally bad, if not worse. Possibly more evil on occasion. I try to aspire to that myself, evilness. I do think there is a gender thing about some interactions, but I don't think it's exclusive. And not all women are good hostesses, as it were. And not everyone's a good guest. I think there's, it's one thing to throw a party, as it were. It's another thing to be a good guest, to show up at a reasonable time, to make an effort, to make the party flow. So there's a certain art to being a guest as well as being a host. And I think what FM Connect does is it provides a structure to both sides of that, so people who aren't naturally in those areas become naturally good because they're given an opportunity to. And too much alcohol is another thing in networking things where when is enough?
Go, Nikki, go. You got your hand up. You don't. By the way, you don't have to put your hand up. It's not a contact center.
Oh, yeah, I'll talk all the way through the thing. Otherwise, you'll be like, press on mute. So this is one of the things that we actually recognise. And say, for instance, somebody's going sober, or they don't drink anymore, or they're on medication, and there can sometimes be a pressure for people to feel pressurised to drink in those circumstances. So one of the things that we actually do advertise that in our events, because most of them are evening events, is that the fact that there are alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks there. And I don't just mean there's pop for you. We offer non-alcoholic beers, non-alcoholic fizz, so that people don't feel that it's a thing. And you can take what you want. We cater for all different foods, allergies and stuff like that. But the food, because you did Birmingham as well. So we really look at it. In London, we're partnered with, we use Just Eat for Business for their pop-ups, and they are absolutely fantastic. And because we kind of feel that if people are going to give time away from their family and their friends when they've done a day's work already, we kind of need to feed them. We have a responsibility to feed them if we're going to put alcohol on, and to make sure that actually people are comfortable. It's like making people comfortable and making it a good guest experience. But going back to the thing around the male-female thing, I used to be chair for the Institute of Workplace and Facilities Management's Women in FM group. And that group was actually created because, traditionally our sector is a very male-dominated sector. It is still, when you look at senior management. However, there's been great strides within the last few years. We've got more females on boards and stuff like that, and in leadership roles. That's just going to take time to filter through, because obviously if the top tier are all male on the boards, that's going to obviously take a while to filter through to when we start getting women balancing out the boards a lot better. So we have done great strides with the WIP and stuff to make it more inclusive. And if anything, the balance that we've got in ours is because the women make it almost like a safe space. They create a nurturing, safe space for people to open up. Most of my brand ambassadors are actually women, and that's not particularly by choice. It's just how it's actually happened. We are about to go out on a recruitment drive for brand ambassadors. We will only take people for it that have actually taken part in the events before, because they've got to understand what it's about, and we've got to know that they're doing it for the right reasons, not just for something on their CV. So yeah, it's both male and female can be just as bad as each other. The idea is to create the environment where people are proud to introduce each other, even if they don't know anybody, that they're proud to create space for people.
This is a fascinating conversation. And one of the reasons I think it's fascinating is because I think this shows that there's a massive hole in society that was potentially there being filled somewhere else years ago, that is not being filled or hasn't been filled. And it's weird because it's in a way, because actually stuff we're talking about, it's the transcendence between life and work as well, because this stuff doesn't seem to fit into a lot of people's traditional idea of work and networking. Right now, I'm gonna go all religious on this for a minute. I'm not actually, but I'm gonna take us there, just like a prayer. You know,
I had to really stop myself singing then.
Yeah, you were there with me. You were Madonna-ing right for that minute. Anyway, because the thing is, if we go back sort of 45 years or whatever, when I was a boy, still a lot of us went to Sunday school and we went to church in the UK. And actually, if we go a generation before that, lots of people, most people in the UK would have perhaps gone to church. And actually, a lot of that has disappeared. A lot less people do go to church, but church might have been, for a lot of people, where they found, outside of their own family, might have found some kind of family network, as it were, support network, where people were doing stuff. Okay, that has dissipated to some extent. I know you don't throw stones. There are probably a lot of people that still go to church, and it's great. But what I'm saying is that for a lot of people, maybe some of the structures in society that gave them those other kind of family units, that kind of community of support, have disappeared.
Yeah, belonging.
And where our work life has changed, so that actually it's become far more integrated, and it's becoming more and more integrated, because actually tools like social media mean we are, and the internet and the phone and everything else mean we are connected into it 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. It means that actually we are longing for things that are helping us in our life to be connected to our work more as well, so that we get those things connected, and we have those support structures, but I think it causes, I'm sure that some of this causes huge problems for some people's view of business, and it probably causes some problems for management as well, because it's like, well, how do I support these people, right? But I'm guessing you're going to say, and I hope you're going to say that actually you need to get them on board. You need to get organizations, etc., on board for this, because businesses can't do all of this on their own, right? They can't support somebody holistically. They'd like to think they can, but they can't actually support someone holistically on their own, because part of what they're missing is how that person works within the community and the other things of support that they need. You can now all say whatever you like, but hopefully that stirred some conversation. I see Twyla going, let me in.
I'm bursting at the seams here. I'm so sorry, because I grew up in the States, so talk about going to Sunday school, honey. I got it down pat. But I think even more than that, the differences I see in between the education system I went through and the education system my boys have experienced. We had so much in the way of extracurricular activities. And, I always said to my boys, I loved school. Well, I actually hated school. I loved being with the people, and I was in the band. And I still go home every 2 years when I can and see my friends from high school, and we still all get together. People fly in so our band family can get together. That's how much it meant to us. But it wasn't just band. We had sports, we had chess clubs, we had debating societies. There were so many things outside of academia. Everyone could be good at something. Everyone could belong somewhere. And it doesn't mean there weren't problems and people weren't left on the outskirts and all of that. But it gave you more opportunity. And if you just look at those brass bands that used to go around the mines, where's all that gone? Wouldn't that be an excellent experience for anyone? Go ahead, Nikki.
I actually used to be in one of those bands. So over in the UK, they used to have march and jazz bands that do the displays and the carnivals. And that's really random that you said that, because I knew it was a big thing in America. And it used to be quite a big thing over here in the 80s, 90s, and it's just all faded out. And I used to do that from probably the age of 6 to say probably 14, because then I went into Army Cadets at the school, which was another thing that was fantastic for teaching new skills and discipline. But as a result of that, I was out competing every weekend. So I used to practice once or twice a week. We'd go to practice, but we were competing every weekend, or we were doing carnivals, displays and carnivals. And then we went over to do the World Championships. So we won the World Championships when we went out. But you're learning how to work as a team. You're learning discipline. You're learning structure. And you're learning the beauty of actually being quite part of a tight-knit community and celebrating success. And we've kind of lost that in this country, very much so. And I think this is where I'm going to be controversial and chuck a full-on nuclear Scud missile. I kind of think a lot of the problems that we're actually having in society today is that some of these things have actually disappeared. So when these kids are looking for belonging, because let's face it, most parents have both parents working now because of the cost of living and the cost of society. So these kids are looking for belonging, and they're ripe for the pickings for these gangs to pick them up, because they want to feel they are part of something. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People need belonging. And wherever they find that, they will find it somewhere in order to survive. And we need to make sure that we change how we're doing things so people actually get that belonging. The Army Cadets, I really feel like they should have them attached to each school. I was part of the combined cadet force because most of them didn't have male-female contingents, and that was actually attached to our school. And it gave me the best experiences ever. It taught you resilience, it taught you discipline, it pushed you and gave you stretch targets. It actually helped you find out who you are at that age where you don't really know who you are and it's easy to get steered. It actually gave you opportunities to take part in things that will make you dig deep and actually find out who you are as a person, what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, so that they can create opportunities. And we've kind of lost that, and that's really sad. One of the things that we're looking at in FM Connect is actually creating a schools program. So we want to go out there, we want to get youngsters into our industry, and it's very difficult to do so because in the FM sector, we're a hidden industry. They're like the fairies that appear when no one else is there. They fix everything, clean everything, tidy everything, and then they're gone by the time everyone comes back into the building, be that schools, be that workplaces, be that in the public realm. So you can't be what you can't see because you don't know about it, and the careers advisors don't know about it. So how can they advise you on a sector that they don't even know exists?
You've really struck a chord with me, Nikki, and I have to say this, Graham, because you'll like this as well. There's a guy who plays, I don't know if it's doll drums, the drums like this from Pakistan or Bangladesh.
Yeah.
He's brilliant because he does fusion stuff. And he's got all these guys banging the heck out of these drums. You would not believe the sound. But then they're playing like rock and roll as well, but with this kind of, mixed sound. And he started off doing it because he was reaching out to his community to keep kids from going off the rails.
Yeah.
I think it's called Doll Foundation. Really interesting, mega good music, really, really good. And it's those types of things that make the difference in people's lives. And it's not just sport. People are always like, oh, you have to play a team sport to know. There's lots of ways you can do this. Orchestra, art club. There's lots of ways, and you should be exposed to everything.
It's almost back to Tom Morley, isn't it, Steve?
That was the name. I was thinking, is Twyla going to say Tom Morley all of a sudden? Tom was from Scritti Politti, wasn't he?
He was, he's the drummer from Scritti Politti,
and he was one of the first people we had on this show about, it's got to be 3 years ago, hasn't it? Where we had him on, and that was one of the things he was talking about. Fascinating. And I was thinking, is Twyla going to say Tom Morley's name? But you didn't. But yeah, that was exactly.
But I didn't know Tom. Many apologies, Tom. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
He's on LinkedIn, folks. If you want to check him out, but he does that. He gets groups of people together with drums or things that they can hit, and he gets people connecting through rhythm.
Amazing! That's all down my street. So I do lots of sort of stuff like that, like women's circles and like shamanic journeying and stuff like that. So that's what I don't think I'm a raving hippie now, but that's right up my street.
One of the best networking things we had was we did a leap year event, and one of the guys got a bunch of little mechanical tin wind-up frogs, and we did races we had everyone down on the floor and doing like camera angles and laughing our socks off, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we have to do this again. This was so much fun.
Right then, Twyla, we're going to get you on board as a brand ambassador. That is your new task.
Only if you're doing leap year.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do it in interface because it's all really posh, nice floors. So at least like you're not going to get dirty and it's all like really swanky floor space.
Here's something we need to break down. Just before we came on today, Nikki said to me that she said, Twyla had sent over some. I'm going to be open and honest about this. Twyla had sent over some questions to Nikki about various bits to do with ergonomics, and she said, "I know nothing about ergonomics. I can't speak on or answer any of things like this." And here's the thing: you do, right? You really do. I think part of the problem, part of the reason we do this program is because actually we're trying to educate people within the sector that actually sometimes they don't understand ergonomics, right? Because actually everybody, and I'm no disrespect to anybody out there, but anybody that kind of squeezes ergonomics down to, it's just about, how you rearrange your desk or how you're sitting or whatever, is completely and utterly missing the point, right? And actually our industry needs to learn more and more about actually what's encompassed in that, because ergonomics ultimately is about helping people be productive in their life and work. Again, it has to be life and work because those two things are completely integrated now, and it's about removing barriers, and it's about it's about not just the environment but the culture and all of those things. Now, if it's about all of those things, then if you're doing something there about how people are supported with community, actually community should be a word that's incorporated into ergonomic principle. It really should. So there's something to think about, folks. Are you thinking about that whilst you're selling your mice and your keyboards and your up down desks? how are you supporting your people community wise as well? And that's important, because actually it feeds into the rest of it as well, right? Because if people aren't supported community wise, if they don't have those support networks, if they don't have anywhere to turn to talk or open up or develop, you know, as a person, then they're probably going to struggle with the rest of it. And you know what? When I was a workplace assessor, I saw it over and over and over again. These things manifest themselves as physical conditions a lot of the time, right?
Your body keeps the score.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great term. So, you know, those people that we go and see in an office because they got a bad back or they got a bad neck, or, you know, they've always got a grumbly tummy or whatever. So often that's because there's an element of their life that's not right. Yeah. It's not just how they sit and whatever else. We can help them to some extent in all of those other things as well, right? But we can't really solve it until we get to helping them holistically. And I think that the industry is beginning to understand that. I think we're beginning to get there in that. But actually what you're talking about very much sits in the realms of ergonomics. So actually it's you can teach us as much as we can teach you. And that's all. That should always be the case. I always believe that should be the case out there. The other thing I just want to kind of finish on today as well is one of the things you said right from the start, which was really interesting, is that, you know, some of these spaces, they don't work for a lot of people because they're not salespeople, etc. And this feeds into something I've been talking about a lot recently, which is actually the death of sales, right? Because, you know, I actually believe, and I know Stephen looks horrified every time I say this, but I actually believe
I've still got a mortgage to pay. Don't go saying that.
In 2024, that really we shouldn't be selling, right? We shouldn't be selling. You know where I'm going with this. That actually, where we should be going is we should be walking alongside people, and we should be solving their problems by getting to know them, getting to understand the issues that they have, and showing them what skills we've got, what conversations we can have with them, what people that we know that we can bring into the equation that can help them, etc. So actually, it's about educating each other as we go along. So really, we should actually just have loads of educators out there, which, you know, is why I get passionate about people getting better at educating. But is that something you're seeing in FM Connect as well? Is more of this not actually about selling? It is actually about learning?
Yeah, that's why we have the structure that we do, because we usually have two speakers at each event. One will follow like what the awareness month is or something, and we'll do it around something like that. And then the other one will be something that's topical to the industry, whether that be around sustainability, around work life, around workspace, creative human-centric workplaces and things like that. So we try and keep that balance, so that we've got a mix on there. But people, I think if people are going to come out of the workspace or give time away from their family, they've got to be getting something out of it. And for me, it has to be one of our taglines is engaging, educating and empowering people by impactful networking. So it has to have all of those elements, so that you're giving them the knowledge, that they're empowered to go out there in the workplace, and you're engaging them while you do it so that they can engage others. It's almost like a ripple effect. And you find that you don't have people, when they're talking about business and stuff, because I hop around the groups when I'm facilitating, you don't have people doing that sales pitch that you would find everywhere else. People are actually really, it's like an onion. You've got to peel back the layers to get to know them. And they're having real deep conversations where they're not just connecting about work, they're connecting about outside of work. So you're starting to create relationships and friendships where you're doing business with people that you know, like, and trust, and that is why that's why it's working, because it's creating a movement, because we're doing things differently and people are getting fed and nurtured with the things that they need to help their lives move onwards.
Love that. So if you want to join a network full of ogres, because ogres have layers like onions, go elsewhere, because you haven't got ogres, have you, in your network? You've got nice people.
We have the beautiful people.
You say
Beautiful
Shrek wasn't nice, that Princess Fiona wasn't nice. Are you actually saying that live?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Good. I thought you'd retract that.
Yeah, but maybe we shouldn't refer to anybody as an ogre, because it's just not a great term. I think we've learned loads today. Thank you so much. And we've had, actually, looking at the figures, we've got a lot of people been watching this today. Very quickly, because I know, Jodie, you mentioned, because you mentioned anything to do with accessibility and inclusion, whatever, Jodie's going to be there on it, right? Because she is like queen of accessibility and inclusion, etc.
I saw that. I saw that comment.
So she just wanted to say, do you see much discussion about accessible buildings and services? Because she thinks very few FMs understand it.
Yeah, so whenever we're choosing a premises to do our events in, we make sure they are accessible, because we want everybody to be included. But we've talked about it as a part of a topic, but we've not had a specialist event on it. So Jodie, if that's your bag, get in touch with me. Come along and have a chat with us.
There you go. Jodie, that sounds like there's probably a great opportunity there to just go and talk about the bigger picture in terms of accessibility and inclusion, and sort of, granulate down into that, and then maybe be able to signpost people into particular specialisms as well around that.
Yeah, we'd love to have you, Jodie.
There you go. That's great. You see, it's all about connecting people in a meaningful and deep way, which is what we try and do on this show as well. That's been a great conversation today, Nikki. Thank you so much for coming on. Was it a pleasurable experience in the end? Did you feel like we broke down the barriers here for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I could go on chatting for ages. You'll probably have to silence me. But if anybody wants to continue the chat, please look me up on LinkedIn. Or you can find us on fm-connect.co.uk. We'd love to have you along. We are always looking to improve. So if there's things that you feel that we've moved, please reach out to me and tell me, because we'd love to actually get those built in.
So it's fm-connect.co.uk.
And if you have venues or would like to sponsor, please get in touch. We want to be able to take it around the country.
And Eventbrite as well. You can look on Eventbrite.
Yes, yeah, they are an Eventbrite, but we will be coming off there soon, because we've got some exciting new news. We're going to be launching a membership, and that will have an app where people can connect direct.
Today, live, first breaking news.
It is, yeah. We've not actually announced it yet. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I got all excited, and that's it.
You know what? It's because we had breaking news last week on the show. Yeah, and so Twyla now gets really, really excited if we have breaking news. Okay, I'm going to have to bring back the video clip where it brings up it on the screen.
Yes.
Breaking news that we had in one of the wows during the COVID period.
Yeah.
That I'll work on that for next time, Twyla, that it's there in the background, ready to go.
Right. I shall hold you to that, Graham.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it. I say us. I always say us because I feel like I'm representing the team. But
I think that's very inclusive of you. Thank you. Thank you to Nikki today. Thank you to Twyla. Thanks to have Stephen back. It's lovely to see you back, sir. Without bottles of a certain liquid, which are now very cheap to buy, in the background. Thank you to you for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's show, please do share it with your colleagues out there. We'd love to make you join the family in a very sort of non-committal type of way. Just listen to us. We don't require any money or services or anything like that. You can find previous episodes of this at wowergonomics.com. You can go there and fill your boots, or as some people do, listen to it whilst they're stuck on the M25.
Yeah.
We'll be back again, same time, same place next week for another episode of this. Until then, stay safe out there. Bye for now.
Thanks, folks.